A master contract is a contract that has been put in place by ISB, CPOGS, DO-IT, or CMS. These are the four entities that are able to actually create and institute joint purchase master contracts. Master contracts set up terms and conditions that allow other agencies to procure supplies and services off of the master contract. It's very important to always look back at the master contract to make sure that what you are trying to release is actually pursuant to the master contract. You need to review the notice of the award for the specifics. You may need to attach a statement of work or documentation from the vendor. Those requirements will be listed on the NOA. You'll not be creating a new contract, but rather releasing against that master contract. Begin by going to the CPOGS website and access the job aids for BidBuy. So here we'll scroll down. We will click on the BidBuy hand. In the left navigation, we'll click on job aids. And we'll scroll down. We'll filter this table to release off masters. And we'll begin with the release off master enhanced. All right, so we have that downloaded. We'll open that up. And then we will head over into the BidBuy training environment. So then in the BidBuy search box, with the option catalog selected, enter JPMC. So here you'll see JPMC, we've got catalog selected, and we're going to click on search. JPMC stands for Joint Purchase Master Contract, and this is how you can view what JPMCs are available. Though, and this is highly important, just because a JPMC is listed, it doesn't mean it's available for you to utilize. There are a lot of master contracts that are pursuant to different regions or different sections of the state, or maybe there's a primary vendor, a secondary vendor, and a tertiary vendor. So if the primary vendor can't meet your need, then you can contact the secondary vendor, and if they can't meet your need, only then can you go to the tertiary vendor. You need to make sure you're targeting and releasing against the correct region and the correct vendor. So how are you supposed to know that information? Well, if you're going through the list of master contracts and you see regions or primary or secondary in the title, you're going to want to look more deeply into that contract. You can do that by copying the purchase order number and looking that up in the advanced search option. This is how we can see the original master contract and find the NOA with all of the details. This will be very important to us as we work through the job aid to make the release off a master contract. So let's go ahead and starting here, we're going to look at this master contract original purchase order, and that's for purchase order number 13900. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to click on advanced search. I'm going to select my document type as purchase orders, and I'm going to enter that number in, scroll down, and click on search. Here we'll see this first option is the original master contract. These ones with the colon and then a number after it, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are releases that have been done against the original master contract. So we want to make sure to look at the original. We'll click on that. And here is that original contract. So the first thing that we want to do is review the begin and end date of the contract. You'll need to make sure that the contract hasn't ended and it won't end before your need is fulfilled. If, for instance, I need this service for a whole year, but this contract is ending next month, I'm only going to be able to release the services for 1 month, and I will not be able to extend beyond that end date of the master contract. So looking up the master contract to verify the end date is highly important. So here we will see that the actual contract begin date is November 1st of 2022, and the end date is October 31st of 2032. So we still have several years left on this contract to be utilized. Then we can also look at the agency's attachments and look at their redacted contract. So let's click on attachments. And then you can open up the NOA, the contract that's been redacted, as it's not marked confidential, so anyone can, with access to BidBuy, can go ahead and open that up. That redacted contract is going to show us the details of the award. This is going to let us know if there's a primary, secondary, or tertiary vendor, or if there's any additional requirements, such as a statement of work that will need to be solidified with the vendor in order to utilize the master contract. It's also going to inform you whether or not your agency is permitted to release against it. If it says all governmental units, you're included. If it states that, this is only for ISP or public safety agencies, then this would be limited to only those agencies. And if you're, for instance, ISB, you're not going to be able to release against the public safety contract. Reading through the details for use within those contract documents is highly important. If what you're trying to release isn't pursuant to the master contract, your SPO is not going to approve it, and CMS or DoIT or whoever created the contract is not going to approve it either. So in this instance, we're not going to open up this document because this is the training environment and this document is just it's just a blank document. But what you would want to do is open up the document and go through it and read and make sure that everything that you're wanting to release is pursuant to the master contract. Looking at the items tab will also be helpful. Some master contracts have hundreds of items. They may include the initial term, the renewal term, or some of them may just be the different regions that are being serviced by this contract. So if there are different regions and there's different items for each region and different pricing for each of those, there could be 100 line items just on one master contract. So again, understanding what you need and what the master contract offers is how we get to a successful release. So once you understand that and you say, okay, I know what I need, I'm going to go on and begin my release. I understand this contract and I'll move forward with creating a release. Okay, so now that I've figured out that this contract is in fact available for my use, I'm going to click on the BidBuy logo, and then I'll just go back to doing that JPMC search. So now I'm here and I already know that I have the ability to purchase off this contract, so I can go ahead and move forward. This JPMC is $10,000 a year and I need to release off of this for 3 years. So I'm going to enter my quantity as 3. I'm going to add that to my cart. I am going to go ahead and open up my job aid here. And as we can see, I entered in that desired quantity of the item and I added it to the cart. So now what I need to do is click on the cart and select add to a new requisition. So here I'm going to select add to new rec. If you had an existing rec going on, you could add this to the existing, but in our case, this is new. So we're going to select add to a new rec. As you can see here, we've already landed on the items tab. Whenever we start, we usually start at the general tab, but because this is a release and I'm ordering from that catalog, it automatically places my item and the quantities in the cart, so I don't have to add them myself. As we can see here on the job aid, we need to head back to the general tab and we'll enter in a short description. If we need to edit the department and location, we could do that. And then we'll have to enter the type code. This is actually important. The type code can be identified by checking the original PO type code from the link on the items tab. So since we're here, I'm going to go ahead and open up the original PO and we'll see here that this is competitive sealed bidding. It's important to note that as you're going through BidBuy and filling out all of the information, you can always refer back to this original PO for that information. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our release off the master and you'll see we've got our number here. And then I'm going to click on the general tab. All right, so first off, I'm going to enter in that type code since I just looked it up. It's competitive sealed bidding. I'm going to enter in my short description, 3-year snow plow parts. And then let's open up our job aid, and we do need to then enter in our release begin date and our release end date. Entering in the release begin and end date is highly important. Even though it's not an asterisk field, this is required, and your SPO will be returning this to you if it's not filled out. So we need to make sure to do that. So here we are. We're going to enter our beginning of our release date here as April 22nd, 2024, and then our end date as April 21st, 2027. And we will save and continue. All right, let's open our job aid back up. And so we've completed the general tab. If you had any updated items, you could enter those in the items tab. In this case, we don't have any updates and we're not using the discount off MSRP, so we are good to just proceed forward. For our address tab, we don't have any changes there, so we're going to scroll past that. And then we'll head over to the accounting tab where we will click on find it, select not applicable, and then save based on percentages and rebuild for all items. So here's our accounting tab. We're going to click on find it. Here's not applicable. You can click on the N or you can select find it and select not applicable. We'll do that. We'll select, we're going to save based on percentages. And then we're going to rebuild for all items. We'll see that this transaction is being processed. And now that validation error has been cleared. Let's go back to our job aid and see what our next step is. We will now go to the attachments tab. As for the attachments tab, you may need to get a vendor quote. This is the case if you are doing a percentage off MSRP. You will need that vendor quote that lists the original MSRP, the percentage off, and the amount of the percentage off so that we can make sure that you're getting the proper percentage off. You will need that discount percentage off documented. If you have any procurements from the procurement file, you would need to add them here. And if you had any agency or all agency specific forms. I will say that the procurement justification form is required by CMS, but it is not on our job aids as CMS hasn't required us to add them to the job aids. Just keep in mind that you may get this returned if the CMS procurement justification form isn't attached and they deem that it's necessary for attaching. We don't have anything to attach to this file, so we're going to go ahead and our next step would be to add any notes if we had any necessary notes to this procurement. In this case, we don't. If we had any reminders, we could add an internal reminder for ourselves or our colleagues. This is not to be used for an SPO reminder, but we don't. So I'm now going to go to the summary tab and submit this for approval. Here's our summary tab. I'm double checking all of this information for accuracy. It all looks good, and now I'm going to submit for approval. At this point, the procurement would go through your approval process. Since we're in the training environment and to move things along, we're automatically approving this, but that will not happen as this will have to go through your appropriate approval path. Our changes have been made successfully, and now you can see we have a purchase order number with that colon and 5, as this is the 5th release against the master contract. Let's go to our job aid and see what our next step is. So our next step is to access that PO via the link on the requisition summary. So we'll access the PO. And now here you can see that we are in our PO. Here's our number right here. Okay, we do have some overall validation errors and we will work through the job aid to correct those. It is of note here that you do need to obtain signatures and you can print out the BidBuy PO and send it to the vendor for the vendor signature. In order to do that, you can scroll down to the bottom, click on here, print vendor copy, and that will open up a PDF copy of this PO for you to send to the vendor to get their signature. All right. We're not going to do that for right now just because we are in the training environment. So we're going to continue on and work through the job aid. We need to create a change order in order to correct all of these validation errors. So we're going to click on change order and create change order. So here's change order, and then we'll click on create change order, and we'll head into our job aid. So now we need to go to the change order general tab and enter in our actual contract begin date and our fiscal year of obligation and our actual contract end date. Enter our release end date. Okay, so here we are. Let's click on the general tab. And we'll scroll through, and we're basically just making sure that all of the fields with an asterisk, as you see right here, are filled out correctly. All right, so the actual contract begin date was, remember if you recall, November 1st of 2022. So this is the actual contract begin date of the master contract, and the end was October 31st of 2032. And our fiscal year is 2024. Award amount, including renewals, it's just $30,000. Okay. Is there a BBP participation goal? No. And that information will be available on that master contract, and you do need to make sure that that information matches correctly. All right, these have already been filled out. We're just again going back through here and making sure that all the asterisk fields are appropriate. All right, so we still need to enter in our SAP number. If you are using SAP, this is where you would enter that number. We're just putting these 9s in as a placeholder so that this process will move forward. Are you using a small set-aside vendor? No. And this is not a set-aside of procurement. Again, that information will be on the master contract. And our full value is $30,000. Okay, so now we can save and continue. And we can see that all of those changes were made successfully. So let's open up our job aid and see what our next steps are. So now we need to go to the change order attachments tab, and we need to attach that signed BidBuy PO, as well as any other documents to complete the procurement file and our vendor communications. So let's go ahead and now click on the attachments tab, and we'll add that vendor signed PO. Okay. Here's that vendor signed contract or BOA. We need to label this as our vendor signed PO, and we will save and exit. Again, just reflecting back to our job aid, we are not showing any of these documents to the vendor, and they will all be marked as confidential. So we need to uncheck show to vendor, we need to check confidential, and then we need to save that change. All right, we are good. We don't have any other attachment for this procurement. If we had a reminder, we could set that. We don't in this case. So now we're going to the summary tab. If you have an optional comment to make for the whole change order, you can add that. You can edit any of the custom descriptions with actual change information, and then save and continue and submit for approval. So let's click on the summary tab. We are all good here. So we'll just scroll down and we will submit for approval. Again, we're automatically approving because this is the training environment, but at this point, your procurement would go through its approval path. All right, those changes were made successfully. So now we need to go to the purchase order summary tab, and we will access the PO. So we need to go back to PO. And here we are on that summary tab. We'll go to our change orders. We will apply this change order. So we'll click on that. We'll scroll down. We will select apply change order. All right, we're having our transaction occur right now. And then you can see that that change order has been applied and we are now in ready to send status. So as our job aid says, we will select vendor notification option and save and continue. So we'll scroll down here. We're going to send email and notify vendors and save and continue. And you'll see here that that transaction is occurring. And we are now in sent status. So this PO has been processed. Thank you so much for watching this CPO GS training on releases off masters. If you have any questions, please send an email to cpogs.training@illinois.gov. Thank you. Welcome to our training on releasing off of the G2B Grainger Punchout. So we will begin at the CPOGS website and we'll scroll down and access our job aid. So we're going to click on the BidBuy hand. We're going to navigate to this left menu, click on job aids. We're going to scroll down in the center of the screen. We're going to filter this table to release off masters and then release off master G2B Punchout. All right, we'll get that opened up here. And then I'm going to show you this in the BidBuy live environment. Unfortunately, we can't demonstrate the G2B Punchout in the training environment, so I will be using the live environment, and unfortunately, I won't be able to show you the whole process, but we do have the job aid there, and it is similar to our typical JPMC release off masters, so you can refer to that video for the full process. But let's begin. We're going to go over here and click on the gear and then select G2B Punchout. All right, and then our vendor, we're going to select Grainger. And then you'll see the ship to and bill to address. Just make sure that those are correct, and then we'll click on Punchout. Let's open up our job aid. And you'll see those instructions here. So you'll see that we did the settings, the G2B, the Grainger, and then now we are here at the Grainger website. So we can type in the search bar if we're looking for something specific. You can also browse and see what it is that's available on Grainger and add things to your cart as you're shopping. It's just like any sort of other web-based shopping that you've done. So we can see what we have. I'm interested in some lab, office, and hospitality supplies. So I'll click on that. And then here I can see I've got some boards and easels. So I'll click on those. I need some display and presentation easels. So here we have the various options that are available. So I can go ahead and click on that. And this is what I'd like. So I can add one of those to my cart. I also need some of these large post-it pads, so I'll add that to my cart. Need this one as well. So I'm just adding several things to my cart here, and we will go back to the job aid, and we'll see that once we submit our cart, then we'll be redirected to BidBuy for the rest of our process. So I cannot click on submit to cart right now because that will put this into the live environment. And since I'm training, I'm just showing you the process. But if I do submit to cart, that'll pop us over into BidBuy, and then you can go through the rest of this job aid step by step to process this into a PO in sent status. Thanks for attending this G2B Punchout training. You can contact us at cpogs.training@illinois.gov with any questions, and have a great day.